McGraw-Hill Ascent Audio presents Never Say Whatever, How Small Decisions Make a Big Difference by Richard A. Moran. Narrated by Stephen R. Thorne. Publisher's note: in this audio edition, you will hear references to figures present in the print and e-book formats of the book. One can't forever stand on the shore. At some point, filled with indecision, skepticism, reservation, and doubt, you either jump in or concede that life is forever elsewhere. Arthur Miller. I used to be indecisive. Now, I am not so sure. Anonymous. Forward. First, I have to ask, where the hell was this book when I needed it? And I did need it. Speaking as a dude who has learned everything I know from having done it the wrong way and ultimately being embarrassed or shamed into self-correcting, I could have used a few of Moran's lessons. In my first few management jobs, I thought that every decision was so damn important that I needed to make them all, no matter the size. Or maybe I thought I was so important that only I could make those decisions. Of course, I was wrong on both fronts, and I learned my lessons about decision-making along the way, sometimes the hard way. The late Sumner Redstone, the chairman of Viacom, took me to decision-making boot camp. I was general manager of both MTV and VH1, and in my first private meeting with Sumner, I described all the things that were working, and then launched into a laundry list of everything that was broken. I detailed my list of worries, challenges, obstacles, and competitive issues. Finally, he pointed at me, seeing that I was upset by these challenges, and said, "Jarl, if we did not have problems, we would not need you. Your job is to set priorities and make decisions." That is when it was clear to me what a manager/leader really does. Yes, we need to hire great teams, work with them to craft strategies we want to implement, create milestones and timelines, provide feedback, and adjust as these plans get implemented. But what I learned that day was that my job was to make decisions and then allow others to make decisions. I never had thought of it that way. I learned my lesson, and while serving as CEO in the early days at E! Entertainment or the venerable NPR, I worked hard to let others understand the power of all decisions and how they shape the organization. Even seemingly small choices are critical, as Moran points out in Never Say Whatever. The word whatever is nuanced and very complex. I never realized it could mean so many things in so many different contexts. The word can both deliver a variety of messages and mean nothing at the same time. Moran understands this and brings his unique observational skills to bear brilliantly in this book. He takes seemingly complex, nettlesome problems and makes them easy to see and grasp, cutting out the corporate speak, and he gives us ideas and actions that can be implemented immediately. He includes terrific and engaging real-world stories to add color and real-world flavor. He shares with us our responsibilities to make decisions, large and small, all day long, and the best way to consider them. Rich's background and experience are the perfect foundation for the book. Some may say he has a checkered past, but it is that variety of roles that provides his nuts and bolts perspective. He has been a venture capitalist, where most decisions are made with little information. He made decisions about untested concepts and often untested teams. The venture world is a make-the-decisions-and-move-on world. He also spent years as a management consultant. I feel for these folks. They do all the data collection, research, and analysis, and make informed recommendations so the client can make decisions. but clients may not pay attention. Or if the recommendations are implemented, the consultants rarely are credited with the work. In short, they often do much of the work without any power to make a decision. What a life! As if that is not enough diverse experience, he also was a college president. I was lucky enough to be invited one year to provide the commencement speech for that year's graduating class. I saw firsthand how Rich was able to collaborate with faculty, students, board members, alums, and donors, making tough decisions for the benefit of the entire institution. So much easier to have said, whatever, and try not to balance all those competing demands. A tough gig. I know, I've had similar challenges running NPR. I can't think of one decision that is ever made where at least one major constituency doesn't go to the wall to fight against it. A real joy, that. As in every aspect of life, few things go according to plan. We need to be flexible, adapt, make changes quickly, and move on. And we need to focus on our intentions and results. When your teams are made up of highly intelligent, creative folks who thrive on generating ideas, ultimately someone has to make decisions and pick the priorities that will lead the way. You can't do that with a whatever. Rich told me that the entire book can be summarized in the title, Never Say Whatever. Well, that's a start. But understanding the nuances of decision-making and how even the small ones can affect your career and life makes this a book worth consuming. You won't be sorry. Jarl Mohn, former President and CEO, NPR. Introduction. The anti-whatever evangelist is born. Your destiny lies in your hands and can be molded with each passing day by the choices you make. Sunday Adelaja. Saying whatever is like saying the F word. It can mean almost anything you want, a confident teenager told me as she enlightened me about the whatever word. She went on, whatever can be a whole sentence. It can be a curse, an attitude, an okay, an insult, or a nothing word all at the same time. It especially comes in handy when I want to say I don't care. With that simple description of a word so often used, my approach to both management and an examined life began to change. My teen friend was right. Whatever is a word that can come in handy, although it can be habit-forming, and the consequences of regularly using it can be negative and dramatic. I heard the W word again soon after, in a different context, while I was working on a project as a consultant at a large software company. The project was complex and involved a large team. I was proud of the work the team had completed to date. We had put in long hours, eaten plenty of Chinese food at 11 p.m., and we were confident in our work and the impact it was making on the company. The only impediment to our success was the CEO of the company, who would occasionally parachute in to review our work and suggest improvements. Except rather than review, all he really did was criticize the work. He needed to be the smartest guy in the room, which everyone knew was rarely the case. We dreaded seeing him and hoped that he would leave us alone. He didn't. We were even willing to give him all the credit for the success of the project, since we knew he would claim credit anyway. He was the epitome of the asshole boss who was allowed to operate with impunity. We were the lowly consultants, and he treated us accordingly. After every one of his visits, havoc ensued, and progress went backward. On one visit, he gathered the team around him and suggested we change our approach to the project. A colleague looked at all of us with unbelieving wide eyes and muttered the word "whatever" under her breath and added an eye roll. His suggestion would require unnecessary rework. The guy put the "re" in rework. Nothing is more demoralizing to a project team than rework. "Whatever," she repeated out loud, despite her getting paid for the time on the rework. Let's face it, she might as well have dropped the F-bomb filled with resignation and defiance. We held our collective breath. The CEO, who was pushing for the unnecessary rework, was oblivious. But her reaction and the use of the "whatever" word sucked the air right out of the room. He could have terminated the project on the spot. Instead of throwing an F-bomb, like "whatever," at the clueless CEO, she might have made the decision to make a plan with the team later. Or she might have asked a question, like, "We can do that, but do you know the project will be delayed?" Or she could have just been quiet, because we all knew that not only did her muttering risk the project, but her attitude also messaged the rest of the team that she was not willing to improve the situation. Her give-a-shit factor was so low that we could no longer rely on her as a team member. With that one word, she unknowingly did damage to the project and her reputation. I wondered, is it me, or did I miss the memo that said it was okay to avoid decisions? I did not. There is a way, and although everyone's journey is unique, "whatever" is not part of it. I was convinced that this is a word worth further consideration. The remarks from my teenage friend and my colleague connected the dots for me. This is a word that has a variety of implications, and, most important, the word can do damage. The word is not benign. It can be toxic, with short and long-term consequences to anyone who uses it. It's like the children's board game Chutes and Ladders. Each time you say "whatever," you slide down a chute. Each time you make a decision, you have the potential to climb a ladder. My teenage friend might miss out on any number of adventures that she dismissed with the "whatever" word. Instead of going on a school trip, or trying out for a team, or making new friends, she wasted the chances with nonchalance. My colleague may have been fired for using it in front of the asshole boss. Or she might have mentally thrown in the towel on working on the project going forward. What she did do for certain was lose the trust, confidence, and respect of the rest of the team. The word conveys any number of messages that we associate with slackers, complainers, wimps, and uncooperative non-team players. In general, it conveys a negative persona or approach. Even worse, although the word "whatever" is multidimensional, the act of using it almost always defers or eliminates a decision or a choice that should be made. The word can even be an act of indifferent defiance. As someone who is a true believer that life is choices, and it's better to be positive than negative, I set out to kill the word. As I spoke to leaders and conducted research, I found consistent messages regarding decision-making and what factors into the "whatever" word. When it comes to success and avoiding a "whatever" life, we must be intentional, be self-aware, be accountable, be willing to take risks, recognize that actions follow choices, start the day with a choice, know that regrets will happen, move on. Each of these factors will be explored in the chapters that follow. Each of these 7 bullets deserves its own chapter to kill whatever. These universal behaviors are the key to eliminating that sense of being stuck because you avoided decisions, large or small. It's no mystery as to why whatever is so prevalent. Nothing close to decision-making is taught in schools. Even in high school, students learn calculus or great literature. But when it comes to how to make an informed decision, students are left to their own devices. Even when selecting a college, high school students make fairly uninformed decisions, even though that choice can have long-lasting implications. College choice can be made on any number of variables, including the inventory of hoodies in the bookstore or the cute campus tour leader. A better decision might be made based on variables like financial aid or post-graduation job prospects. In all cases, whatever is not part of the equation. A simple module in the middle of a social studies curriculum is all that it would take to make a difference and show how important it is to never say whatever. Decisions are complex, not necessarily because the choice between two options is complex, but because we human beings are complex. Nonetheless, we should commit to never say whatever if we want to live happier, more successful, and balanced lives. Regardless of gender, personality, age, or Myers-Briggs type, the temptations of an aimless life can be avoided by making decisions, especially all the small ones. Research and studies regarding decision-making span the disciplines of the social sciences, business, and even romance. Scholars continuously work on how the brain operates. How we make choices is a science that continues to evolve and make breakthroughs. It is all important work. Although I give the research world credit, I am not the guy performing extensive experiments or scholarly research. My ideas are my own, based on my observations in the workplace and beyond. I make no apology for that. As a consultant, I learned early that I was not paid to say whatever. I was paid to make recommendations. This book is about recommendations. I've tried to make this book approachable. You can start anywhere, and when you do, I hope you will glean a tidbit to help you. The book contains themes, rules, lessons, bulleted lists, stories, surveys, and tools to help you on your journey. Consider it an anti-whatever workbook. Each chapter ends with a simple decision-making tool that can help. Nothing complicated. You need to determine which one might suit your needs the best, given the nature of the decision. Only you know what's in your heart and in your head and in your timeline. You are the one who can bring all the variables of your best self to the decision altar. I want people to be successful. I want people to find meaning in work. I want people to take control of their careers. I want people to understand how important even small decisions can be. I want people to avoid whatever. As friends told me to write the book to eliminate the whatever syndrome, I could have said whatever and forgotten about writing the book. But I didn't. As a leader, as a father, as a listener, I recognized that choices matter. Making a decision matters. I hope you choose to not say whatever and instead consider the ideas in this book. The Whatever Survey. Does it sound like I am talking about others and not you? Think again. Before you start criticizing others, think about just a few workplace activities that may apply to you. Have you ever piled on to that stack of dirty dishes in the company kitchen, right under the sign that roars, "Clean up after yourself, the maids are gone"? While on your way to work, have you ever told yourself, "I'm not going to do anything today. I don't feel like it"? Were you ever mean to a coworker or customer just because you could be? Did you have a temporary asshole attack and regret it later? Ever wear a hoodie on a Zoom call? Do you take the newspaper with you to the bathroom and stay there for a long time to hide from your coworkers? Do you ever avoid the difficult emails you've received, afraid to address the tough issues? Do you oversleep all the time and dread going to work? Do you wear the same clothes for more than 2 days at a time? Do you have that weird feeling that something is bothering you, but you don't know what it is? Do you hang around with friends whom you don't like? Do you schedule or attend meetings to kill time? Do you eat second helpings, even when you don't want them? If you answered yes to any of these questions, you are guilty of whatever. Continue on. Perspectives on whatever. Michael Huerta, former administrator of the Federal Aviation Authority, FAA, board member, aerospace industry leader, mentor. As the former head of the FAA, Michael Huerta understands the importance of small and large choices. He was the longest tenured leader of the FAA in U.S. history and was appointed by the U.S. Congress. He remains a teacher and a mentor. We had a very simple measure at the FAA, Michael says. On any given day, if the same number of planes landed as the number that took off, it was a successful day. There was never any lack of clarity about how we made decisions. Wouldn't it be a happy world if all organizations had such simple measures? Any sense of whatever is just not part of the DNA at the FAA. Michael chuckled and laid out a scenario. Imagine being on an airplane, listening to the channel on in-flight entertainment where you can hear the pilot talking to air traffic control, ATC. It's the channel full of static where the pilot and ATC are chirping back and forth about turns, checkpoints, runways, weather, and traffic. You know your own flight number, so you can track what your pilot is saying. After a directive from ATC, your airplane pilot responds, "Whatever." He went on, "That will never happen." He laments the fact that although the FAA was nimble when it came to making decisions, the rest of the government was not. Delay tactics were common, which meant decisions were not ever made. At some point, it doesn't matter what the decision is. Let's just make one and move on. Sometimes you reach a point where you just will not learn anymore, and it is time to decide. When dealing with following long and complicated policies, even in government, sometimes people would throw up their hands with a spirit of resignation, a sort of collective whatever. That's a sign that a decision is probably overdue, or the policy needs to be changed or simplified. If the outcome of implementing a policy is not clear, why bother? Both clarity and outcomes need to be a part of decisions. Within the FAA, we had clear policies, and people were good at implementing them. If something didn't work, we changed it and moved on. We had an informal slogan of, "Just deal with it." Michael's career is one that has always been goal-driven, and he has made thousands of decisions to achieve those goals. If he said whatever along the way, he doesn't remember saying it. Whatever wisdom. When it comes to safety and other important decisions, good enough should not ever be one of the choices. Chapter 1. The World of Whatever. We all require a few small reminders. Let's not confuse hasty decisions with strength or intelligence. It's important to be decisive, after giving consideration that reflects the time you have and what's at stake. Bill Blackman. As the Rolling Stones said, you can't always get what you want, but if you try sometime, you'll find you get what you need. The word whatever is not a part of the song. Decisions are complicated. There's give and take. There can be fear. There are details. There are misunderstandings. And the entire process can be messy. Sometimes you make a choice and a promise to yourself, such as, I am going to find a new job before the end of the year. Sometimes you make discrete choices with your team. I will stay until the IPO, and then I am out of here. Sometimes you make choices with the devil. I will fudge on these numbers to get what I want. And sometimes there is sort of no decision to be made. I like my job, and it supports my lifestyle. I am keeping it. That is still a choice. In all cases, factors were evaluated and a set of decisions were made based on a complex set of variables. A decision to make a decision occurred. Hallelujah! When the decision is not made, that's the problem. That's the whatever. Making good decisions is a skill that can be learned. It's all about understanding yourself, recognizing the options, and making a pick. The most egregious mistake that any leader can make is to be indecisive. Some call it waffling. Some call it wishy-washy. Some call it risk-averse. No matter how the indecision is described, I'll circle back. It can manifest itself in the whatever syndrome. A whatever person usually doesn't last long in a leadership role. But don't think of making choices and leadership as only for presidents or CEOs. We are all leaders of something, whether it is a bowling team, a church group, or a family unit. At the very least, we are the owners and leaders of our own lives. We are the owners of our own careers, and applying the never say whatever rule to that notion is critical. The word whatever is not new. It's been a part of the English language for a long time. But the word became a default expression after the 1995 hit movie Clueless. It was there that Alicia Silverstone and her high school friends launched us into the whatever world. Although their language included other classics, such as the words like and totally, that took on a life of their own, it was whatever that would endure with meaning. Like and totally have no meaning, which is a separate issue. The teenagers in the movie would put their thumbs together and raise their index fingers into a dramatic W. The W signal quickly became as well understood as the middle finger. It meant, I don't know and I don't care, all rolled into one. But that was just the beginning as the word weaseled into the pop culture. Other examples of the word's usage can be traced to the TV show Bewitched and the classic My Mother the Car. Newer movies and TV shows continued the usage, as one character or another refused to make a decision. Whatever became a shortcut word for an entire array of attitudes and decision-making that persists. Other movies and television shows followed and reinforced the concept that whatever was a signal of I don't care what happens. An entire YouTube show is devoted to the whatever word in movies. The likes of Clint Eastwood, Meryl Streep, Brad Pitt, and many others all show their attitude with a big whatever. In the movies, they almost all use the word to be annoying. It's hard to imagine all of these strong personalities using the word. Ironically, even among those who use the word, they don't like to hear it from others. Marist College in New York conducts a respected annual survey of the most annoying word or phrase used in casual conversations. The word that holds the record for being the most annoying year after year is whatever, followed closely by words and phrases like no.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?